All right, hello folks, and welcome to another video of another spooky story. Am I seriously going to record in my pajamas? You bet I am. I thought about getting properly dressed, but then I remembered that nobody watches my stuff anyway, so it's fine, and I can do whatever I want, because no one cares, so it doesn't matter. We are back in the territory of spooky stories this week, looking at branching out and continuing to do sort of film some other things. One of the reasons I got a camera like this, so that I'm not stuck using the webcam every time, is so that I can do sort of some craft type videos. So that's going to require a little bit of planning, but it is something I'm interested in doing in the future. There's also some roadworks going on in my neighborhood, so hopefully I can record this and it sounds decent and it's not just got a bunch of construction noise in the background, because that is scheduled to go on. My brain is saying for a month, but I don't really remember, and I'm not super keen on being forced to have to listen to jackhammers for a month. That would be terrible. So we are back with a spooky story. We're technically back in the realm of folk horror for this video. What I've got for you today is I'm going to read the first two chapters. The chapters aren't long, but to try and read this all at once, I think would be a little bit of kind of a long video. So instead, I'm just going to do the first two chapters and continue to break it up as like that, just so that I'm only ever reading a few chapters at a time, so the videos don't get too long. One is because I don't want to have to record a super long video, but also I feel like considering I'm taking my chances with all the noise happening outside, I feel like the odds are better if I keep the videos short. The odds will be better that I don't get a ton of awful background noise. So that's the reasoning behind it. So today I'm going to read the first two chapters of The Withered Arm by Thomas Hardy, famous 19th century author. I mean, you can look them up if you're curious, but I can hear a truck. We'll do the best we can, and if the audio on this is garbage, I will deal with that later. Maybe I'll have to re-record, we will find out. But the first two chapters of The Withered Arm by Thomas Hardy. Chapter 1, A Lorn Milkmaid. It was an 80-cow dairy, and the troop of milkers, regular and supernumerary, were all at work, for, though the time of the year was as yet but early April, the feed lay entirely in water meadows, and the cows were in full pail. The hour was about 6 in the evening, and 3/4 of the large, red, rectangular animals having been finished off, there was opportunity for a little conversation. "He do bring home his bride tomorrow, I hear. They've come as far as Anglebury today." The voice seemed to proceed from the belly of the cow called Cherry, but the speaker was a milking woman, whose face was buried in the flank of that motionless beast. If you're wondering why the camera shook right now, it's because Belle she's just behind the camera there, looking at me. She might try to get in my lap, we'll see. Whose face was buried in the flank of that motionless beast. "Have anybody seen her?" said another. There was a negative response from the first, though they say she's a rosy-cheeked, tisty-tosty little body enough. I've never heard that expression before, tisty-tosty. She's a rosy-cheeked, tisty-tosty little body enough, she added, and as the milkmaid spoke, she turned her face so that she could glance past her cow's tail to the other side of the barton, where a thin, fading woman of 30 milked somewhat apart from the rest. "Years younger than he, they say," continued the second, with also a glance of reflectiveness in the same direction. "How old do you call him, then? 30 or so?" "More like 40. broke in an old milkman near in a long white pinafore or wrapper, with the rim of his hat tied down so that he looked like a woman. "'E was born before our great weir was builded, and I hadn't man's wages when I laved water there." The discussion waxed so warm that the purr of the milk streamers became jerky, till a voice from another cow's belly cried with authority, "Now then, what the Turk do it matter to us about Farmer Lodge's age or Farmer Lodge's new missus? I shall have to pay him £9 a year for the rent for every one of these milkers, whatever his age or hers. Get on with your work, or 'twill be dark afore we have done. The evening is pinking in already." The speaker was the dairyman himself, by whom the milkmaids and men were employed. So yeah, there's a bit of dialect in this. I'm going to try and do my best with it. I thought about doing an accent, but I'm not very good at them, so I won't inflict that on you. Nothing more was said publicly about Farmer Lodge's wedding, but the first woman murmured under her cow to her next neighbor, "'Tis hard for she," signifying the thin, worn milkmaid aforesaid. "Oh no," said the second, "he hadn't spoke to Rhonda Brooke for years." When the milking was done, they washed their pails and hung them on a many-forked stand made of the peeled limb of an oak tree, set upright in the earth and resembling a colossal antlered horn. The majority then dispersed in various directions homeward. The thin woman, who had not spoken, was joined by a boy of 12 or thereabout, and the twain went away up the field also. Their course lay apart from that of the others, to a lonely spot high above the water meads, and not far from the border of Egdon Heath, whose dark countenance was visible in the distance as they drew nigh to their home. "They've just been saying down in Barton that your father brings his young wife home from Anglebury tomorrow," the woman observed. "I shall want to send you for a few things to market, and you'll be pretty sure to meet him." "Yes, mother," said the boy. "Is father married, then?" "Yes. You can give her a look and tell me what she's like, if you do see her." "Yes, mother. If she's dark or fair, and if she's tall as I, and if she seems like a woman who has ever worked for a living, or one that has always been well off and has never done anything, and shows marks of the lady on her, as I expect she do." "Yes." So that's interesting. Little bit of messy family life there. They crept up the hill in the twilight and entered the cottage. It was built of mud walls, the surface of which had been washed by many rains into channels and depressions that left none of the original flat face visible, while here and there in the thatch above, a rafter showed like a bone protruding through the skin. She was kneeling down in the chimney corner before two pieces of turf laid together with the heather inwards, blowing at the red-hot ashes with her breath till the turves flamed. The radiance lit her pale cheek and made her dark eyes, that had once been handsome, seem handsome anew. "Yes," she resumed, "see if she is dark or fair, and if you can, notice if her hands be white. If not, see if they look as though she had ever done housework, or a milker's hands like mine." The boy again promised, inattentively this time, his mother not observing that he was cutting a notch with his pocket knife in the beech-backed chair. So we've got our setup. There's clearly some sort of history between the gentleman farmer and this woman, and the fact that he is bringing home his wife, who is not her. I understand the desire to see what the new partner is like, but I don't know. I've never met anybody that was happier for finding out a bunch of stuff about their ex's new partner. So Chapter 2, The Young Wife. The road from Anglebury to Holmesmoke is in general level, but there is one place where a sharp ascent breaks its monotony. Farmers homeward bound from the former market town, who trot all the rest of the way, walk their horses up this short incline. The next evening, while the sun was yet bright, a handsome new gig with lemon-colored body and red wheels, was spinning westward along the level highway at the heels of a powerful mare. The driver was a yeoman in the prime of his life. It's interesting how the man is at the prime of his life, and the woman, who is not his wife and is probably comparable in age, is like old and washed up. The driver was a yeoman in the prime of his life, cleanly shaven like an actor, his face being toned to that bluish vermilion hue which so often graces a thriving farmer's features when returning home after successful dealings in the town. Beside him sat a woman, many years his junior, almost indeed a girl. Gross. Her face was too fresh in color, but it was of a totally different quality, soft and evanescent, like the light under a heap of rose petals. Few people traveled this way, for it was not a main road, and the long white riband of gravel that stretched before them was empty, save for one scarce moving speck, which presently resolved itself into the figure of a boy, who was creeping on at a snail's pace and continually looking behind him. The heavy bundle he carried being some excuse for, if not the reason of, his I'm going to have so much trouble with this word. His dilatoriness. When the bouncing gig party slowed at the bottom of the incline above mentioned, the pedestrian was only a few yards in front. Supporting the large bundle by putting one hand on his hip, he turned and looked straight at the farmer's wife, as though he would read her through and through, pacing along abreast of the horse. The low sun was full in her face, rendering every feature, shade, and color distinct, from the curve of her little nostril to the color of her eyes. The farmer, though he seemed annoyed at the boy's persistent presence, did not order him to get out of the way, and thus the lad preceded them, his hard gaze never leaving her, till they reached the top of the ascent, when the farmer trotted on with relief in his lineaments, having taken no outward notice of the boy whatever. "How that poor lad stared at me," said the young wife. "Yes, dear, I saw that he did. He is one of the village, I suppose?" "One of the neighborhood. I think he lives with his mother, a mile or two off." As if he doesn't know. "He knows who we are, no doubt." "Oh, yes, you must expect to be stared at, just at first, my pretty Gertrude." "I do, though I think the poor boy might have looked at us in the hope we might relieve him of his heavy load, rather than from curiosity." "Oh, no," said her husband offhandedly. "These country lads will carry 100 weight once they get it on their backs. Besides, his pack had more size than weight in it. Now then, another mile, and I shall be able to show you our house in the distance, if it is not too dark before we get there." The wheels spun round, and particles flew from their periphery as before, till a white house of ample dimensions revealed itself, with farm buildings and ricks at the back. Meanwhile, the boy had quickened his pace, and turning up a by-lane some mile and a half short of the white farmstead, ascended towards the leaner pastures, and so on to the cottage of his mother. She had reached home after her day's milking at the outlying dairy, and was washing cabbage at the doorway in the declining light. "Hold up the net a moment," she said without preface, as the boy came up. He flung down his bundle, held the edges of the cabbage net, and as she filled its meshes with the dripping leaves, she went on. "Well, did you see her?" "Yes, quite plain." "Is she ladylike?" "Yes, and more, a lady complete." "Is she young?" "Well, she's growed up, and her ways be quite a woman's." "Of course. What color is her hair and face?" "Her hair is lightish, and her face comely as a live doll's." "Her eyes, then, are not dark like mine?" "No, of a bluish turn, and her mouth is very nice and red, and when she smiles her teeth show white." "Is she tall?" said the woman sharply. "I couldn't see. She was sitting down." "Then do you go to Homestoke Church tomorrow morning. She's sure to be there. Go early and notice her walking in, and come home and tell me if she's taller than I." Very well, Mother, but why don't you go and see for yourself? I go see her? I wouldn't look up at her if she were to pass my window this instant. She was with Mr. Lodge, of course. What did he say or do? Just the same as usual. Took no notice of you. None. Next day, the mother put a clean shirt on the boy and started him off for Holmstoke Church. He reached the ancient little pile when the door was just being opened, and he was the first to enter. Taking his seat by the front, he watched all the parishioners file in. The well-to-do Farmer Lodge came nearly last, and his young wife, who accompanied him, walked up the aisle with the shyness natural to a modest woman who had appeared thus for the first time. As all eyes were fixed upon her, the youth's stare was not noticed now. When he reached home, his mother said, "Well," before he had entered the room. "She is not tall. She is rather short." "Ah," said his mother with satisfaction, "but she's very pretty. Very. In fact, she's lovely." The youthful freshness of the yeoman's wife had evidently made an impression, even on the somewhat hard nature of the boy. "That's all I wish to hear," said his mother quickly. "Now spread the tablecloth. The hair you wired is very tender, but mind nobody catches you. You've never told me what sort of hands she had." "I had never seen 'em. She never took off her gloves." "Which did she wear this morning?" "A white bonnet and silver-colored gown. It wooed and whistled so loud when it rubbed against the pews that the lady colored up more than ever for very shame at the noise, and pulled it in to keep it from touching. But when she pushed into her seat, it wooed more than ever. Mr. Lodge, he seemed pleased, and his waistcoat stuck out, and his great golden seals hung like a lord's, but she seemed to wish her noisy gown anywhere but on her. Not she. However, that will do now. I mean, stop asking for more details. You're just going to upset yourself." These descriptions of the newly married couple were continued from time to time by the boy at his mother's request, after any chance encounter he had with them. But Rhoda Brooke, though she might easily have seen young Mrs. Lodge for herself by walking a couple miles, would never attempt an excursion towards the quarter where the farmhouse lay. Neither did she, at the daily milking in the dairyman's yard on Lodge's outlying second farm, ever speak on the subject of the recent marriage. The dairyman, who rented the cows of Lodge and knew perfectly the tall milkmaid's history, with manly kindliness always kept the gossip in the cow barton from annoying Rhoda. But the atmosphere thereabout was full of the subject, the first days of Mrs. Lodge's arrival, and from her boy's description and the casual words of other milkers, Rhoda Brooke could raise a mental image of the unconscious Mrs. Lodge that was realistic as a photograph. So those are the first two chapters of The Withered Arm by, what did I say? Thomas Hardy? I totally remember the things I read, by Thomas Hardy. So I was looking at something else today written by Stevenson, and I couldn't remember which was which. So yeah, we are clearly being set up for some sort of uncomfortableness, I guess we could call it, between these two women. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And being a 19th century story, I'm sure there will be some sort of pardon me, hiccup. I'm sure there will be some sort of moral or lesson or commentary that as the readers were sort of meant to take away from it. So we'll see how we feel about it when we get to the end. But otherwise, thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today, and I look forward to reading the rest of this story for you here on the channel. So in the meantime, until we meet again, I hope you and your loved ones are safe and well, and that we can meet up again on the channel soon for the rest of Thomas Hardy's The Withered Arm. Goodbye, folks.